I've got 8 questions here. You give me 3 random numbers, and whatever we land on, that is where we start our conversation, at least.
Okay. 2.
You are trapped on a deserted island. You absolutely must pick one White Lotus Season 2 character to be trapped there with you. Who do you pick and why?
Well, my go-to is Lucia. Because she's a good time. It would be a good time on that deserted island with her.
What is your second number?
3.
What is something that you did for a role in the past that now makes you say to yourself, I'm really glad I tried that at one point, but I never have to do that again?
I never say never. But for this movie 5 Feet Apart, I worked with a nutritionist to lose weight. And it was like because I was playing this girl with cystic fibrosis in that movie, and it's very hard when you have that for your body to retain nutrients and like maintain a healthy weight. So I was like really just trying to, embody as close to like the truth of that character as I could be. And that was really hard for me to be on a diet for those couple months. And it was a very strict diet. Like I couldn't even eat potatoes or squash because they're starchy vegetables. So that was really tough for me. I can't imagine myself doing that in the near future again. But, never say never, because it's important, I think, as a part of my job to do justice to whatever character I'm playing. But yeah, that was a tough one.
All right, you have one more number here. What's the last one you got?
1.
Can you give us one audition high, but also one audition low, and tell us how you overcame that low?
Okay, I can't think of really any highs off the top of my head, but I can think of a jillion lows, and probably one of the lowest of the lows was actually like my first year, probably my first couple months living in LA. I was like 16, okay? I was a child, and it was for Disney. It was a Disney Channel audition for a Disney Channel original movie, which makes this pretty dark, what I'm about to tell you. I walk in, and I'm like so nervous, okay? And I'm auditioning for this like cheerleader character, and I just remember being so nervous. And you know how sometimes you get so nervous that you're like nervous smiling? And the casting director literally stopped me after a couple lines and was like, I'm sorry, but like, you're smiling through every line. Like, why are you smiling? And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry. And I was like literally trying to push my cheeks down. And then she was like, just take a breath and try not to smile. And I was like, okay, which then obviously made me even more nervous, and then I was smiling even more. And then she stopped me like after a few more lines, and she was like, I'm sorry, but are you wearing perfume? And I was like, I think I sprayed some body spray on me. I'm so sorry. Like, is it too much? And she was like, yeah, it's giving me a headache. I was like, oh no, I'm so sorry. My cheeks, at this point, I was like, my cheeks were literally up to here, and I had it was horrid. I finally got through the scene. I was like walking to leave, and I felt like my eyes starting to water because it was really, an awful feeling and experience. And right as I was like opening the door, she was like, wait, can you sing? And I was like, yeah. I'm tone deaf. I can't sing, but I tried, and I started singing for whatever reason, Hit the Road Jack. Don't ask. I don't know why that one came to me, but I started attempting to sing Hit the Road Jack, and I was like crying, and my face was so like stiff, and it was horrible, and I was shaking. And she literally stopped me after like the first verse and said, next. And then I left. And yeah, that's pretty rough, right? Like that's pretty traumatic.
There's a lot of things in that story.
Disney Channel too, and I was 16. Like that's dark.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back for a brand new edition of Collider Ladies Night. I am very excited to welcome Haley Lou Richardson to the show for, of course, White Lotus Season 2, but you have so many incredible titles on your filmography that I'm very eager to touch on today. So hello, welcome, congratulations.
Hi, thank you. Cool.
What was the movie, the performance, personal experience, you name it, that first made you say to yourself, I have to be an actor and nothing else?
Oh man. Well, I think honestly, and this is going to make my audition story even sadder and darker, because something that I think inspired me so much when I was a kid was like Disney and Nickelodeon. Like watching those shows and those kids my age, I was like, this is my personality. This is what I'm like. And also I'm a ham. I love performing and making people laugh, and I could do that. And so I honestly think watching the Amanda show. Amanda Bynes was a big one for me. And I would watch Big Fat Liar over and over. I literally just watched it a couple weeks ago with my dad because it's our favorite movie. But yeah, Amanda Bynes was I just watched her and I was like, that's me. That's me. And so I think that kind of maybe subconsciously was inspiring me from when I was pretty young. And then, I got to 14, 15, 16 years old, and I was like, I could be doing that maybe. Of course, I didn't end up doing that. And I met a mean casting director that stood in my way. But yeah, those were big inspirations for me, because I just really saw myself in a lot of those characters that I was watching.
I was just talking to someone else who very specifically said, you may not get to do the thing that you originally envisioned for yourself, but as long as you keep feeding yourself with the stuff that is creatively fulfilling for you, ultimately it'll broaden your paths and you'll wind up getting something that is creatively fulfilling that you didn't expect. So that was just on my mind as you were explaining that.
Yeah, I think that's totally it. And I think that's actually exactly what happened for me. Watching Disney and Nickelodeon when I was a kid is what I think got that itch inside me of I could be there. I could be doing this kind of stuff. But then when I moved to LA and none of those things happened for me. And then I kind of the first thing that I really ever did as an actor that awoke my true kind of potential love for actually acting, and this whole world of kind of giving your emotion to something on a deep, real level, and how fulfilling that is, and how collaborative that is, and how just alive and empathetic and wonderful that is. I think the first experience I had that was the polar opposite of a Disney Channel show was this independent film called The Last Survivors that I did when I was 17. And I, was the hero of this post-apocalyptic movie. And I got to kind of carry this movie, which was terrifying for me as a 17-year-old, because I really didn't know what I was doing at all. But it was also such an incredible learning experience and wake-up call to be whoa, this is why I moved to LA. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is what I want to do till I'm dead, this kind of stuff.
Of all the actors that you've worked with, whose process would you say is the most similar to yours, where the second you hit set, you were immediately in sync? But then on the other hand, can you give me an example of someone with a different approach to the work who challenged you to adapt, and maybe even adapt and try something new for the better?
That's a great question. Oh my God, I love that question. I'm thinking about so many things. So honestly, what first came to my mind, and this is kind of a cute answer, a little bittersweet, but so a long, long time ago, 9 years ago now, I was on this ABC Family show called Ravenswood that got canceled after a few episodes. But I remember I had a couple scenes with Brett Dier, who then I ended up dating for 8 years. But I remember we were like we met and we like got along, but we didn't have any scenes together. And then this one episode came where we had the scene together, and we just like handled ourselves the exact same way on set. We like made the same amount of jokes. We got into the scene at the same time. Like we just both were very aligned. And I think that was something that like initially just really, attracted me to him or whatever. But yeah, that's kind of a bittersweet answer. But more recently, I worked with Owen Teague on this movie Montana Story that actually came out this year, and I really loved that movie. But him and I like really worked well together. Like there was a lot of this energy between our two characters where it was there's so much resentment and like bitterness and pain on the surface, but deep down there's like this love. We're brother and sister, and there's this like love that we can't reach, but we both so desperately want to access again. And so like there were so many scenes where there's like this disconnect and this resentment, this wall between us, but to like feel that love, we would just like hug each other before takes. We would just like share like really meaningful hugs, or even just like hold each other's like hand. And we kind of just both did that instinctively with each other. And that felt very connected and aligned and everything.
What would you say is the biggest difference between your very, very first impression of Portia when you first signed on to take the role, and then who she turned out to be the more you kind of prepped for production and I guess started to fill in her world between, the lines on the page that you were given?
Yeah, you're asking such good questions. You really are.
Success.
Yeah, that's a really specifically good question, I think, too, for how I felt about Portia, because Portia, more specifically, more than any other character I've played recently, did change so much from when I first auditioned for her and read her character description and had this kind of idea in my mind of who she was and what she was going to be in the show. When I was auditioning for her, and at that point, I thought she was going to be kind of the more grounded, earnest, level-headed character of the show. And I liked that, because I think that those are kind of necessary. Maybe less so in the White Lotus than in other projects, but like I know there was a couple characters that were more along those lines in the first season. So I was like, oh, maybe Portia's going to be that for this season. But then as I started reading the episodes, I was like, oh, she's kind of a little bit of a bitch. Oh, she's like self-serving. Oh, she's very, very like self-unaware or unself-aware. Oh, she's very miserable in an ironic way. Oh, she's a narcissist. Oh, she's literally a mini Tanya. Like there were all these things that kept exposing themselves that I was like, oh, like there are things that are relatable about her and the place that she's at in her life, but there's also like deeply kind of problematic and fucked up things about her as well. So that kind of made it more fun and complex for me, because I was like, ooh, like she's not just this likable little grounded, earnest sweetheart. She's a mess. So I actually found that exciting and fun.
One thing I heard you say in another interview was that usually you can describe the characters you play a little more acutely than you can with Portia. So, given all those qualities and the fact that she makes a lot of decisions, in the heat of the moment, she has some self-doubt, she's unaware of her true self and what she's really about. Did you have, I guess, kind of like an anchor or a constant for the character that no matter what decision she makes, like you always know it was based in some sort of consistent truth for her?
Yes, it was this like deep, deep angst and craving to feel alive. No matter the cost. Yeah, I know, a little dark, but that's what it was. Like, it wasn't a personality trait. It wasn't like, it was like this, I guess, desperation, back to that word, but like, yeah, this like deep, yeah, no matter the cost, just like feeling alive, feeling fulfilled.
I have a feeling you're getting asked about this nonstop, but I obviously have to ask you about working with Jennifer on the show, and I don't know, hopefully to get at it at a slightly different angle. Can you give me an example of maybe a scene where she was like just the right scene partner you needed, where because of whatever she was giving you in a moment, you were able to exceed your own expectations with a particular piece of material?
Gosh, your questions are great and so specific. I think uh, there's a scene, I believe it's in episode 6, and we're at breakfast. And I try not to have an idea of what exactly I'm going to do and how I'm going to say it, because that sucks. And that's the last thing that, you want in a scene. um, but I kind of did have this like subconscious like idea of how the scene was going to go, but you actually can't ever have that, especially with Jennifer. Um, and I just remember in that moment like a mixture of Jennifer and kind of what she was doing. She was being extra chaotic in that scene. And then also Mike came up to me like in one of my last takes, and he gave me this like note or thought that was like, whoa, that's so much better than what I was doing and what I thought. Okay, yeah, let's do it like that. And then I remember it like in the last take or two, just like kind of having a different motivation throughout the whole thing.
I cannot wait to see more of White Lotus season 2 and also all of the wonderful work you will probably have coming our way. Huge congratulations on the show and everything you've accomplished, and big thanks for hanging out with us on Collider Ladies Night.
Yay, thank you. Thanks for hanging out with me and asking such great questions and letting me just blabble.